Good morning and welcome to this Chemistry World webinar. I'm Ben Valsler, Chemistry World's digital editor, and my role today is to introduce you to the topic and the platform that we're using before handing over to our guest speaker to tell you all about how to turn chemical drawings into knowledge with ChemDraw and ChemOffice Cloud version 20. Now, while people are still coming in, let me just let you know a bit about the software that we're using, the platform that we have decided to use to help you engage with our guests today. We're using GoToWebinar. Now, GoToWebinar allows us to share webcams, as you can hopefully see my face now, sharing a screen as well. You can move those about and turn off the webcams if you're on a slow connection, make them bigger if you really want to see more of our faces, and of course you can move the presentation around to be as clear as possible so that you can get the most from the presentation as we go through. The other key thing about GoToWebinar is that it allows you to ask questions. So the GoToWebinar panel, again, can be moved around and consists of various different blocks, one of which is the block at the bottom, which is your questions box. Now, any questions that you have, you can put straight into that box at any point throughout the webinar. Now, not only will my team help sort those out, so if you have issues with the audio, for example, or if you'd like to know how you can view a recording if you arrived late and missed something, then just get those questions in. But also any questions about the content, we will put those to our guest speaker later. And very fortunately today, we have an additional guest who's going to help answer some of those questions in text as they come in. So any questions you have, put them in the questions box at the bottom of the GoToWebinar panel. Now, as I've already alluded to, there will be a recording made available of this webinar. So if you want to review anything that happens today again, then that recording will be sent to you in a couple of days' time. For that reason, we don't share the slides from the presentation because we think it's more important that you have those slides in the context of what our guest speaker is saying. So the video is the best way for you to go back and catch up on anything that you missed or anything you just wanted to watch again. As a thank you to everybody who has attended the live broadcast, in the email with the recording, you will also get a certificate of attendance. So that will be with you in a few days' time. We just need a little bit of time to process everything. So keep an eye on your inbox for your certificate of attendance and your link to the recording after this webinar. Thank you for joining us. Now, today's content, we're looking, as I said, about turning chemical drawings into knowledge with ChemDraw and ChemOffice Cloud version 20. So we'll learn how to increase the productivity of chemistry research and accelerate the communication of your reporting with these new software platforms. Today's chemists face countless administrative tasks that impede their ability to spend time on what matters most. That's chemistry. Spending time on non-science related tasks can cause chemists to lose valuable time in their research and in the way that they share their work with peers. Of course, you are all very highly qualified, well-trained chemists. The last thing you want to be doing is spending time copying, pasting, and formatting things just so that you can share the exciting discoveries that you have made with your colleagues. So designed with chemistry in mind, ChemDraw and ChemOffice Cloud version 20 enables chemists to spend more time making breakthrough discoveries and less time drawing and reporting. In this webinar, Pierre Morieux will demonstrate how powerful capabilities in the latest versions of the software will dramatically increase your productivity and accelerate the communication of your chemistry research and discovery by enabling you to effortlessly create beautiful publication-worthy drawings, to search for chemical structures within Google Patents, to easily find chemical structures buried deep in your files and archives, and to create lists from new and repurposed chemical data. As I already mentioned, our guest speaker is Pierre Morieux. He is the ChemDraw Global Marketing Manager and a ChemDraw wizard. He's Product and Marketing Manager for ChemDraw at PerkinElmer, holds a chemical engineering degree from Rsc Ppt in Paris Tech, a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and did a postdoc at the ISIS Institute at the University of Strasbourg in France. So he's well-traveled, well-trained, and really knows his stuff when it comes to ChemDraw. Also in the background answering your questions, Paul Stefan Kuhn, who's also a field application scientist for part of the ChemDraw team. So any questions you have, do get them in. He will be able to help. We'll put some of them to Pierre at the end of the presentation. Now, before I hand over to Pierre, we'd like to know a bit more about you. So the other thing that GoToWebinar does is it has a poll function, and this really helps us to get to know you and get to hear your thoughts, your opinions, as well as the questions that you ask. We can really understand a bit more about who you are, why you're here, and what problems you have that we and our guests can help to solve. So before we hand over, I'm going to launch at the very first poll now. Here we go. So assuming you are using ChemDraw, what version are you currently using? And there's a list there on screen. Please pick one of those and we'll see. It gives us a really good idea of where you are currently and where we can help you to be in the future and how we can help you save time and just concentrate on the research that we know you all love and you all got into this as a career in order to achieve. So let's just give you a little bit longer to answer that. I can see the results coming in, which is why I'm looking over at this screen at the moment, watching your results coming through. We've got about 3/4 of the audience who voted, so let's close that down now, I think, and we'll share the results. So there we go, 32% using version 19 or one of version 19s, 26% there on 16 or below, 28% of you not currently using ChemDraw. Well, I have no doubt that by the end of the hour or so ahead of us, you will be convinced that it's the right platform for you to use. So thank you very much for you all for joining us. Those of you who haven't yet upgraded from 16 or below, I think you'll have an exciting time looking at all of the new features that we have on offer. So Pierre is going to be the next person that we will hear from. We'll hand control over to him now. You should see him and hear his presentation. We do have more polls coming up. In the meantime, any questions that you have at any point, please get them in. I can see already that there's quite a few questions coming in, so thank you for that. It's great to see that level of engagement, and we'll put those questions to Pierre at the end of his presentation. Pierre, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. And can you confirm that you can see my screen?
We can see a beautiful, colorful presentation all ready to go.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, I guess, wherever you may be joining us from. My name is Pierre Morieux, ChemDraw Global Marketing Manager and ChemDraw Wizard, if you're following some videos I make on YouTube. And it's my pleasure today to give you an overview of what's coming up in a very short amount of time, about 10 days. This is about ChemDraw and ChemOffice plus Cloud version 20. I wish we had this version ready for you today so that you could go ahead and download it and try it, but it's 2020 for everyone. We've had our setbacks. I hope 2021 has treated you okay, and so we have had a bit of delay, and we will have version 20 available for release on November 10th. So that's the date you can mark on your calendar. November 10th, we will have version 20 available for you. And we have just a bit of the license evolution. So I've seen there are quite a few people on the webinar who are not familiar, who may not be familiar with ChemDraw, not using ChemDraw. We have 3 flavors of ChemDraw as of today, which is today we're on version 19. We have ChemDraw Prime, ChemDraw Professional, and ChemOffice Professional. And within 10 days, we're gonna have just one name change. So ChemDraw Prime, ChemDraw Professional will remain the same for version 20. ChemOffice Professional will become just a name change. ChemOffice plus Cloud is the new name for the offering. What changes there? Well, you still get what you would get in ChemOffice Professional, which is ChemDraw, Chem3D, ChemFinder, Mr. Nova, ChemDraw for Excel, access to a Cloud Electronic Lab notebook called Signals Notebook. But most importantly, and that's a big improvement, you will get a new cloud application called ChemOffice Plus. So really, if you have ChemOffice Professional today, tomorrow, as part of version 20, you will get a new application, brand new application called ChemOffice Plus. And what ChemOffice Plus is, I'm gonna see that in a second. So the background for us creating this application is really talking to customers and understanding how they use ChemDraw, what they use it for. ChemDraw is not just a drawing tool, it's a communication tool. You don't draw molecules or reactions for the sake of it. That's what I do. But you do that to communicate the research you do. That is to say, after you draw molecules and reactions in ChemDraw, you take them, you copy, paste them into Word, into PowerPoint, or into Excel. And what this has turned into is that Office documents have become sort of a graveyard of information, of chemical information, that once it's inside is actually difficult to reuse. You need to, there's no searching capability, and you need to know which in which document you pasted what, and it's difficult to extract. And this keeps on happening. This is where molecules go, not to die, but to rest for a very long time. So what if you could take that mess, if I may say, of chemical structures and easily extract it and turn it into reporting slides, for example, in a few clicks? What you see on the screen is something that has been made using ChemDraw version 20, and a slide created like this in a few clicks using ChemOffice Plus, and we're going to see what that is about. So again, ChemDraw is 35 years old as of 2020. It's since 1985, and it means that you have plenty of ChemDraw documents that are buried inside Microsoft Office documents. And as I said, once they are inside an Office document, they're essentially dead data. They're very difficult to resuscitate. So what if you could reuse that chemical data you already have produced? What if you could do structure searching and find the right thing, so you can more easily publish papers, publish patents, present lab meeting presentations, present at a conference, or make lists of compounds, which is not what a chemist has to do. If you think about the workflow, it's really more from a large amount of structures. You're going to want to make a subset list of either molecules or reactions, which you are then going to present or publish. In other words, for example, those are the compounds I have made in the past week, and I'm going to present them at my next lab meeting. Those are the reactions I have made in the past year, and this is what we're going to publish in that paper. So that subset list of molecules or reactions with a given reporting purpose is what we call a collection. So with that being said, we're going to turn over quickly to Ben for poll question number 2.
Thank you very much. So in our second poll, again, really useful for us to get this engagement with you, our audience. How many hours per week do you spend putting together reports? Would you say it is 1 to 2 hours per week on average, 2 to 4, or are you really engaged in shuffling around figures on reports and you're spending more than 4 hours a week? And of course, the area of science or chemistry that you work in will affect how much report writing you're doing. Maybe you're required very regularly to report up to senior management. Maybe you're trying to get as many papers published as you possibly can and make sure you make a name for yourself in chemistry. So we are just seeing some more votes come in. We'll just give it a few more seconds to let as many people as possible vote. We've had quite a lot of questions come through already as well. Please keep those coming in. As we mentioned, Paul Stefan is here to help answer those. And if there's anything that we can't handle in the course of the next hour, then we've got your contact details. We would be very happy to follow up with you after the webinar. I think that's probably long enough now. Let's close that down and see the results. So let's have a look, and it's a relatively even spread, but most people by a whisker are spending between 2 and 4 hours per week just putting together reports, but a roughly even spread throughout all of the audience. But still, a third of you here, so that's I mean, we've got almost 400 people in the room right now, so well over 100 people are spending more than 4 hours every week just building those reports. Pierre, we'll hand back to you now. I mean, that strikes me as that's a lot of time spent that could be spent in the lab on instruments, gathering new data and generating new research.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to ChemOffice Plus, the application, what its goal is, what its intended purpose is to quickly turn unsearchable, scattered, and buried chemical drawings and turn them efficiently into beautiful, accessible, and actionable chemical knowledge. We're going to see how that can happen. For those of you who may be saying those are only medicinal chemistry molecules, just wanted to point out with version 20 of ChemDraw, we have some features that are going to also be of great help to anyone in the inorganics field, in organometallic, and quite excited to show you a few things after that. Okay, so that's a bigger view of those little nice molecules. So really, ChemOffice Plus Cloud catalyzes chemistry communication. If we look at the various, what I call hurdles to communication, so things that get in the way of you doing chemistry and communicating with the rest of the world, you have admin tasks, right? As we said, admin tasks being you spend time writing reports, doing copy pasting into other applications, and not doing chemistry, or also drawing molecules is a part of what I would call an admin task. Then you have lack of chemical awareness of applications that you use every day. Obviously not a great thing if you're doing chemistry. And then siloed applications. And those are three major hurdles that we tackle with ChemDraw and ChemOffice Plus Cloud. So first, the admin tasks is something we address with hotkeys and smart shortcuts. There are quite a few people on version 19 and quite a few as well on version 16. At version 17, we introduced a new much more efficient way to draw molecules using ChemDraw favorite hotkeys, and I'll be showing you that. So cuts down by 3 to 5 factor the speed at which you can represent molecules. Lack of chemical awareness, we have developed a JavaScript version of ChemDraw, which is a building block you can embed inside a web application to make it ChemDraw smart. Number of our PerkinElmer applications have that built in already, such as Signals Notebook. And to address the problem of siloed applications, we have add-ins and integrations, which is like an integration with an extra R. And at version 14 of ChemDraw, we introduced a very famous integration to SciFinder. Version 18, we introduced integration to Reaxys. Later, after 18, we introduced integration with SciFinder N, the newer version of SciFinder. And at version 19 at ChemOffice, we introduced a PubChem safety add-in, giving you access to safety information directly from ChemDraw. And for version 20, a little icon that you probably recognize, and I'll be showing that to you in a second. And of course, a brand new application called ChemOffice Plus that is designed to accelerate all that. And those are videos just in case, because I have to do it just in case. But we are going to actually go over a little live demonstration of what ChemOffice Plus is. ChemOffice Plus is this application that you see right here. And the way it works, the left part is a file explorer. So those files are on my local drive. Or actually they're on my OneDrive, but it's the OneDrive that can be accessed from my desktop. So it's a folder on my desktop that syncs on our OneDrive. But those are Word documents. Those are ChemDraw documents. Those are PowerPoint documents that contain ChemDraw documents, things that have been pasted inside of those there's some documents about 10 years ago, because those are some of the chapters of my thesis. So for example, I can take that Word document, double click. This is the actual Word document, right? So it's a lot of text. It's some ChemDraw drawings pasted in here, and then some nice experimental procedure, right? And references. So that's just a chapter. Imagine you want to repurpose easily something you have already drawn inside one of those documents. You select that in ChemOffice Plus, right? You select multiple Word documents, you select multiple ChemDraw documents, and you can filter on, for example, I'm just interested in the drawings. So those are ChemDraw drawings that have been pasted inside those Office documents, right? You mouse over, you see that, and within the drawing, you can drill down. You can drill down into various reactions. Within a reaction, you can drill down into the individual components. So those are structures. Now, the neat thing about this is you could easily take those drawings. I want to reuse those, do a Control-C and Control-V into ChemDraw, so you have it available readily to easily reuse. Okay, and if we go back one level up, if you want to reuse multiple drawings, then you simply take the actual full drawing and then you Control-C and you Control-V that into ChemDraw to quickly reuse. That is one thing that ChemOffice Plus helps you do. So easily repurpose chemistry information you have put inside Office documents, and we know from talking to our customers that this is the primary storage, the primary way to store that chemical information. Then there is another thing that ChemOffice Plus helps you do, and that is to manage this this chemistry. So if I take, for example, this, right? I take this molecule, I take this molecule. I want to start building a list, for example, to report on. I can add those compounds to what we said, what we call a collection. So you can add to an existing collection, or you can create a new collection. So that is collection, create. And it's going to take those two molecules and it's going to add them to a collection, right? Which I can then click here to go directly to here, or I'll go in the collections folder right there. And I can actually add to that. So if I want to add more compounds to this collection, I simply add that. So I've selected an extra 4 and 4 items added to the collection. Now, if I click show, I'll go to the collection folder, which is right here, and the toast notification just simply takes you there more easily. From there, what do you have? You have the various molecules. You have automatically generated names. So this is the name of the Word document, which drawing, which reaction, which reagent of that reaction, and some automatically calculated properties that appear. What you can do, oh, well, I was fearing this would happen. Ben, can you still confirm you can hear me okay? There is some drilling. Apologize, this is the perks of working from home. Ben, can you confirm the audio is okay?
It sounds absolutely fine to us. Yeah, I think everybody is now quite used to having children, cats, workmen, all those sorts of things in the background of presentations. So it's not disturbing us at all.
Okay. Well, hope so. So the various properties here can be turned on or off, right? And they can be shuffled around. And you can also add a new property, right? So a property 1, right? And it's a text, you create that. And then you simply double click and then you high priority, medium priority, etc., etc. If you need to get them processed or something like that. One thing you can also do is double click. So you double click on the molecule, it's going to open, this is the JavaScript editor of ChemDraw, and you can modify that here. You can bring modification, another box, sorry. TMS, for example, you can modify it, you can take advantage of the various shortcuts you have in ChemDraw that I will show you in a second, save, and then change things like this. One major improvement is that you can actually select multiple molecules, go to collections, edit items, and you can do batch updates. So it's much easier to actually modify those molecules. So you can do that. You can switch to the next one. If you don't like the orientation, you can quickly do that. You can also clean up, right? You can do the 2D cleanup, because as you may have seen, we're gonna see what's new with the 3D cleanup. And you can so do batch updates to multiple compounds, save, get saved. And one of the first things that we wanted to do was to give you an easy way to produce, I want to say, throwaway slides to quickly present your research. So what you can do is export, right? And Rsc Ppt export to PowerPoint directly. And what it does is, let me just show you. Oh. What I just created with doing this is, well, the TMS will have to change, but it created a slide with the first 5 properties in the collection underneath, nicely centered underneath each molecule. And those at the moment are pictures. So I know what you're going to say. They're pictures, but one thing that's important to note is ChemOffice Plus is a cloud application. It's the first of our next generation of applications we are developing. And being a cloud application, you can expect at the beginning bi-monthly and later monthly updates for which you won't have anything to do. So literally the first thing we implemented for this application, it's cloud. You're always running the latest version. There will be an automatic check for updates, right? No updates available, but when you will log in every month, there will be an update. You will exit the client, it will update, restart, and you'll have new features. And we have already some improvements that we're working on that will be accessible to you. Another thing you can do is to save as an SD file. So you can, first of all, in your local files, actually browse SD files and mol files if you are working with that. So for example, this is a SD file which contains about 4,000 structures, and you can pick the structures that you want and add them to a collection. When you do that, the properties associated with the SD file just get taken over, right? So those are preferred name, synonyms, and a URL, for example. Those are properties that come from the SD file. And what ChemOffice Plus can help you do is rearrange and, for example, create and export a subset of that SD file or add subsets of those SD files to another, because you can take from one existing collection and add to another by simply selecting where you put it. So if I take the Rsc collection and I take those 5 structures and I add them, then I go to my Rsc collection here. It contains the first molecules we added and the 5 that I just added from here. Okay, this is in a nutshell what ChemOffice Plus helps you do as of today, and we have some improvements already in the works for the first updates. One of them is the search function. The search function currently lets you find only ChemDraw, isolated ChemDraw documents that you upload on our PerkinElmer Cloud. So it's a cloud application. The chemical searching works for ChemDraw documents. With the first update you will be able to do structure search of structures that are inside Office documents. So you'll be able to find the Office document in which a certain substructure is present. That is not available right yet, but it will either the December update or the January update. Okay, with that, how do you get ChemOffice Plus? So as we said, there is a cloud application called Signals Notebook that you have access to through your ChemOffice Professional and soon to be ChemOffice Plus Cloud license. And I'm just showing that what it looks like here. It's a cloud-enabled electronic lab notebook that you access through the web. So you can enter your experiments. You can share those experiments. If you don't know about this, we have my colleague on the line who will be able to get you a demonstration, or we can talk about it more. And the way you'll get ChemOffice Plus, once it's enabled on November 10th, is this little thing here, Get ChemOffice Plus. You'll download the client, you log in with the same Signals Notebook credentials once, and then you're good to go. You're good to go and use the application. Okay, so you'll download the client from Signals Notebook. You log in with your Signals Notebook credentials. You're logged in and ready to go. That is for this brand new cloud application called ChemOffice Plus, part of ChemOffice Plus Cloud. Now, for the actual ChemDraw, at the ChemDraw Prime level, so the entry level, we have new hotkeys and shortcuts. It's not a new version of ChemDraw if there are not new hotkeys. One thing that will happen is the first time you will launch ChemDraw 20, you will be presented with this cheat sheet. So it's the latest version of the hotkeys cheat sheet. That has been a little bit difficult to find in previous versions, so we've made it simpler. The first time you launch ChemDraw 20, you will be presented with that. Let me switch to the actual application, right? You'll be presented with, so it's in the help menu, shortcuts and hotkeys, but you will see this the first time you launch ChemDraw 20, and then you won't see it again automatically. And you can find this in help menu, shortcuts and hotkeys. This little QR code, if you are interested, is going to take you to that web page called the Wizard Challenge, something we have launched earlier this year. It's intended for you and us to help you showcase your work. If you're having trouble with certain drawings, if it takes you 5 hours to produce one drawing for your publication, we would like to hear from you and help you produce that drawing much more efficiently. And then we do a screen sharing session, we record this, and then it goes here. And if it goes here, you also get some nice goodies, some nice ChemDraw goodies. Okay, so that's something for you to consider. And with that being said, let's have a quick look at, actually, so I'm going to do one thing here. I'm going to turn on a little slide application that's going to help you see what I type on my keyboard, because that's actually important. So one thing with ChemDraw that users don't necessarily know is if you have multiple drawings open, you can Control Tab into the various documents, right? Control Shift Tab, you go back. For the hotkeys, I'm going to use, that's a screenshot, right? It's a screenshot from a blog called drughunter.com that is maintained by a scientist of Genentech called Dennis Hu. And he does an update on molecules of the month, the medicinal chemistry oriented therapeutic molecules in development. And there are good examples to work from. So quickly, which one are we going to do? We're going to do this one. We're going to do this one. So the way it works, for those of you who are not familiar with hotkeys, you insert a button. I mean, you can draw with the tools. That's absolutely fine, but you have a much more efficient way to do things. So insert the bond, touch the bond, that's the hotspot. The hotspot can be moved with the arrows on the keyboard. You go from atom to bond to atom, right? And then you can press enter to start the text tool, CN. So then you have A for the benzene ring, right? Then 1 for this carbon-carbon bond. You press F for fluorine. You go back here. You press 1. You see the green dot. The green dot tells you where the bond goes if you press 1. If you want to go the other way, you press 0, right? So the green dot is to the right here. I press 1, I go there. If I press 0, I go the other way. I press 1, I press O, I press 1, go this way, so I'm going to press 0. I press A, I go here, I press N, I go here, I press 1, I press 6 for a cyclohexyl, N, 1, 0 to go the other way. So then 7 is for the cyclopentyl. I press N, I go here, I press 2 over a bond for a double bond. I go here, I press N, I go here, and then 1. So recently introduced hotkey is U to quickly give you a cyclobutyl. You go here, you press O. Over a bond, you press W for wedge, and it's a toggle, so you press wedge multiple times. And then over a bond, A also does a benzene ring. Then 1, 2, 2 is a carbonyl, and press O for carboxylic acid, right? So we have just drawn this structure from Pfizer, and with just the keyboard. Okay, that's how things work. So new hotkeys. Really, you can try things out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, Z. Plenty of things you can do in combination with, obviously, so it's quite obvious to have O for oxygen, right? N for nitrogen, S for sulfur. Then you have B for bromine, but things are case sensitive. So for example, capital N gives you a nitro, capital S gives you silicon, and an improvement for version 20, capital O will give you an O-methoxy directly. For example, F gives you fluorine, but capital F gives you a CF3. And yeah, that's for the basics. Again, it's all summarized. It's all summarized right here. Okay, and I'm going to just highlight the new ones. For version 20, the K will give you the sulfone, right? So KN1 will give you that. Shift K will give you a T-butyl at 90 degrees angles. And because things are context sensitive, Shift K over a secondary carbon will give you wedged hash wedge gem dimethyl groups. Okay. A new hotkey is appearing in version 20, and that is the enter hotkey for molecules. So for example, let me just go a little faster here. We have this, excuse me. So we do this and this. So press space. Pressing space when you finish drawing a molecule selects the rectangle tool. It says here, you can press space bar. Control arrow right will take what you have selected and clone it on the other side of an arrow. So a new hotkey now is when you have a molecule selected, you press enter and you go into hotspot editing. So for example, I go here, press W, I press space to select, remove this guy, select, control arrow right, press enter, OTBS, right? Space to select, control arrow down, press enter, press 1, 2, O, space to select, control arrow, press enter, and do that. 7, so that's a oxygen right here, 2, 2, 1, 1, 0, and so on and so forth. So it allows you to quickly type reaction sequences. That's for new hotkeys. Now, and that's what you get with ChemDraw Professional. Now, what you get with ChemDraw Prime, and now middle level ChemDraw Professional. This is my favorite molecule, which is Viagra, that I used to draw very efficiently 8 years ago on a YouTube video, and now I can do it even faster because I actually decide. Okay, so that's Viagra. And one major improvement we've had, if you are familiar with version 19, you know already this feature, right? Ring fill coloring, which according to your chemistry preferences, you may see this as blasphemy or not, but the vast majority of our users actually sees this as something extremely useful to help communicate. So currently what you're probably doing, and what I have seen in conferences, is you would highlight things this way, and you would tell your audience, as you can see, the sulfone group in green, the N-methyl piperazine in blue, the lactam in sort of gold, but then obviously you have a not super efficient projector, and nobody can see anything you're talking about when it comes to colors, right? So from here, what can we do? What can we do? We have highlight colors, right? So highlight colors are available right here in the colors, and you select molecule like this, and then you add a highlight, just like in Office documents, so that you can say N-methyl piperazine in blue, sulfone in green, and lactam in gold, and people will actually see what you're talking about, right? And you can do that, and then ethoxy in red. It also works on individual carbons, right? So you can select that carbon, hold shift, select just that carbon, additive selection, and then press that, and it will highlight those carbons, or just one bond, and it will highlight the bond. So much easier to get your point across when you're communicating with other chemists to draw their attention to specific parts of the molecule. Now, that's for the color. Now for the cool stuff, I'm gonna stay with this. The cool stuff. 3D cleanup. Have plenty of examples. This is adamantane, right? This is adamantane. This is what you get in ChemDraw when you do name to structure adamantane. If you do cleanup structure or Control-Shift-K, right? Cleanup structure, that's a very well-known shortcut for ChemDraw users. You get that. So now there's a new thing called 3D cleanup, Control-Shift-D, like 3D. You press it, and then you get an actual energy minimized confirmation of adamantane. Several things happen when you press that button or when you do Control-Shift-D, right? There's a first step that generates 3D coordinates from 2D coordinates, and then there are actual minimization steps, energy minimization steps taking place, and that can be done multiple times. So for example, let's take a textbook example of transdeculin. Press it once. This is textbook transdeculin. It may not give you the results you want immediately. So this is cisdeculin, and it will give you an energy minimum, but you may have to just simply twist it a little bit to facilitate getting to another energy minimum. Right? So for example, there you go. That's more like textbook cisdeculin. things will be inferred from the 2D information. So take this molecule, right? We're going to make a quick copy and we're going to change the bond to wedge here. So take that 3D cleanup, right? Going down, and 3D cleanup going up, right? Take a structure like this, which I know is a pain in the rear for you to produce. So 3D cleanup multiple times, you'll get that. Let's take something like morphine. The more you draw explicitly wedges and hash wedges, the better you will get a structure, right? So take this, that's morphine. This is where, let me just undo that. This is where, for example, ring fill coloring comes in handy, right? You can do that, excuse me, select a ring, fill it with color, right? Helps you visualize which ring is which. Plus some depth shading that occurs with the various rings, right? So the further away it is from you, the more lighter gray. And there you go. Quickly, a recently introduced shortcut, Alt with keyboard arrows for rotation. So up, down, 15 degrees increments, and left and right 1 degree increments. Let's take this guy here, Phomactin A, select Control-Shift-D multiple times. That's about minimized so you can see things here. Hypatulone A, molecule for the contest of the Rsc for organic synthetic chemistry. So that's what things look like. And it works pretty well. Let's move on to other structures. This is one thing you can do. I was just trying it out this morning. It actually, I'm not going to go into exactly how I got this, but I got there, right? And what you can do here, that's a trefoil knot. I was literally playing this this morning, so there's a certain way to get there, but this is what you can, those are the things you can get to with the 3D cleanup. I think it looks pretty cool, but I'll come back to that a little bit later. So how much time do we have? Minutes. We're going to go slightly over, but there are some nice things I want to show you. First of all, what can you do with cyclobutyls in ChemDraw? So imagine you take 4 cyclobutyls like this, which, just as a reminder, you go over a bond and you press 4 multiple times, as many times as you want. That's how you get there. The joining command. So select this bond, hold Shift for additive selection. You see as I hold Shift, there's a plus sign that appears, and select this bond and Control J, J for joining. Control J. I have joined the 2 bonds. It's not very obvious. Select, so you press Tab and you select the molecule. Reminder, when you press Tab, you jump from one molecule to another, and Shift Tab, you go back. Go here, Control Shift D, and those are 3 cyclobutyls close together, right? So how do you make a cube or a cubane? Then you do that, right? 4 cyclobutyls. Select, hold Shift, select other bond, Control J, tab to select, Control Shift D, and you only need 4 cyclobutyls because the last 2 faces you get for free. So that's cubane. Let's and then so on and so forth. So select that, Control J, that's 5, Control Shift D. Now you have this structure. Select that, Control J, Control Shift D. Now this structure, you get the idea. This is nicely geometrical form. So we did the cubane. The cube is one of the platonic solids. How do you do a tetrahedron? Just quickly. tetrahedron, 3 cyclopropyls together. You take that bond, you put it over here, select Control-Shift-D. That's it, tetrahedron. The cube we have seen. An octahedron, cyclobutyl, 4 cyclopropyls. Take that atom, join it here, take that atom, join it here, select, oops, excuse me, select, excuse me, let's go here, select Control-Shift-D, octahedron. Dodecahedron, let me get this one out of the way. A dodecahedron is this guy, so that's half of it. I make a copy, I overlay, I make it staggered by a little bit, and then I join things that are staggered. So I select 2 atoms and Control-J to join, right? Select Control-J, select Control-J, select Control-J, select Control-J, select Control-J, select the molecule, Control-Shift-D, 3D cleanup, dodecahedron, right? Now the last one, how do you make an icosahedron? An icosahedron is very simply 20 cyclopropyls together. So go verb on, press V to add a cyclopropyl, and that's 10. Then go here, go here, go here, go here, go here. Okay, so that's a fully decomposed icosahedron. Take the top ones and put them together. I did spend a little bit of time studying platonic solids and 3D shapes, so it's going a little faster. Take that and take that, so we're almost done, right? Now we close, we take this bond, hold shift, take this bond and Control-J, right? So let's do a 2D cleanup, right? Control-Shift-K, that's a very Picasso-esque icosahedron. Now let's do 3D cleanup. And there you go. So from there, we can make good use of the hotkeys. Hotkeys apply to an atom that you have a hotspot on, or it applies to a selection. For example, I press B, I'm going to get bromine, but that's not what I want. I want boron, so Shift B. And then I go here, I press C, and then C, and that's your orthocarborane, for example. But orthocarborane that actually looks nice, unless what happened, which you can find in the literature. So, you know, then knock yourself out, have fun, take this, you know, you do this, Control-J, Control-Shift-D. Then if you do this, if you do complex structures, you want to do them gradually. So select that, Control-J, Control-Shift-D, because things may get tangled, like they just did. Control-Shift-K and Control-Shift-D. Okay. And then select this guy, select this guy. I do want to emphasize I'm on a PC, but the 3D cleanup works on the Mac as well. So there you go. If you want to make cool shapes like this. And I do want to spend a little bit of time on superstructures, because you may have seen some ads from there. So first of all, I did the platonic solids myself. Obviously, there is a quicker way to do this, which is the Polyhedra templates that exists already in ChemDraw. You take this guy. This guy is obviously flat, but you can do Control-Shift-D. And now it's not flat anymore. So you can work from there. You can get the icosahedron from here, but it's more fun to actually build it. From there, you can take a C60 full ring. That's in the templates as well. Select it, Control-Shift-D. And now you have the actual thing. Take a C70 full ring. So one quick way to get there is on the Wikipedia page, you have, for example, smile strings. Smile strings are a textual representation of molecules. You can take that, copy, And within ChemDraw, if you have a smile string within your clipboard, you can directly Control V it into an actual molecule. So that's a C70 fullerene that got damaged during delivery, and you can simply take that 3D cleanup, and that's your C70 fullerene. Okay, we are 5 minutes, so I'm gonna pick one last thing to show you because I always end up not having enough time. Which one am I gonna do? We're gonna do this one, cucurbituryl. Never know how to pronounce that well, so let's do that. Control J, and then select those two. Control J. Now I select, I do the copy, and I do another copy. So Control J, Control J, Control J, and Control J. Now we close the loop, right? So I take this bond. One more time. Take this bond and drag it over. Take this bond, drag it over. Select 3D cleanup, right? So we have that. Now we look at it from the top. What do we have? It's not going to get things. Make it a bit. It's not going to get things right all the time. So you see this hydrogen should be outside, but it's not. So you simply take it and put it on the other side. Those carbons should be more on the outside, right? So just drag them towards the outside. Same for those guys; they should be more on the outside, and it's going to help. It's going to help things. So Control Shift D. Now it should be better. What's wrong now? Yep, looks like we're good. There's one last guy who still doesn't want to remain outside. So take it, hold Alt, and drag the bond outside. Control Shift D. Now we should be good. There you go. So that's a nicer looking cucurbituryl with 6 units. Created easily. With that, let me quickly go back to my presentation because we just have too many things to show you with this new version. We really did quite a lot of improvements. Last poll question before some people actually start to go. So this is the color highlight that I demonstrated to you. 3D cleanup. Poll question number 3 before we close and go to session. Questions.
Yep, let's get that last question up. So thank you so much for that. We've got an ongoing chat in the background here as well, and that the 3D cleanup function looks, it's been described as wizardry. It looks absolutely magical. I'm really impressed with that. But so let's just get that our final poll up before we go into questions. So here we go. So other than SciFinder, SciFinder N, Reaxys, and PubChem, what other websites do you frequently access to do your research? So are you looking at Google Patents, Google Scholar, ChemSpider, or all of the above? And of course, if there's something that you use very regularly that you think we should know about and we should think about, then get that in the questions as well. You've been asking so many questions throughout this. We will have time to put a few of them across to Pierre now, but thank you for all of your questions. It really does make the world of difference having a webinar that's so interactive, and thank you to everybody who's asked questions. Thank you to Paul Stefan as well, who's been answering a lot of them in the background. So we'll give you a few more seconds to answer this and let us know what other websites or resources you are frequently using, and then I think that's probably about enough for now. Let's just close out and share the results. So Google Scholar, miles above everything else, but all of the above are certainly getting used quite frequently. So there are a lot of resources out there. I can see Google Scholar, ChemSpider, Google Patents, all getting good representation from our audience here today. And once again, if there's anything else that you use regularly, just get in the questions box there, and we will we'll consider that for future presentations and so on. Pierre, thank you so much for all of this.
Sure. There's one. So after that last poll question, one last thing that I should rename that. You will get, as part of ChemOffice, the ChemDraw that comes with ChemOffice plus Cloud version 20, a new add-in. It's called the Google Patents add-in, but it looks into Google Patents as well as Google Scholar. So you will be able to select a structure and initiate a structure search into Google Patents or Google Scholar. What you see here on the screen is a search result from Google Patents. Select the molecule, hit the button. It's under final revision at the moment, so I cannot show it to you, but it will be a new feature in the ChemDraw that comes with ChemOffice plus Cloud. So you had the safety add-in before, it looks into PubChem safety data, and you will have that in version 20. So quickly wrapping up, where do we help you doing chemistry? The drawing and representation part is really where ChemDraw helps you save a ton of time just drawing and making beautiful drawings for publications and communication and presentations. And then the communication part, managing your lists of compounds and putting together nice reports, is really where ChemOffice Plus helps. So save the date, November 10th. You will be receiving an email from me if you attended this webinar when it's available. And with that, we can go into questions. Please stay some extra time if you can. Otherwise, drop your questions. We will answer them, but I'm not in a hurry right now. And I think we have some work to do to answer those questions. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Pierre. And so if you do have questions after the webinar, if anything occurs to you, or if you're watching the recording, then Pierre has very kindly shared his contact details on the screen right now. So do take a note of those. And if you've asked a question that we don't get around to discussing now, then don't worry, we will do our best to get back to you with some of those. There's been a couple of sort of themes that have come up in the questions as we've gone through. One of which essentially for people who are used to the current set of hotkeys and shortcut keys. Angel, for example, said, does 3 still work for benzene, or is it A from now on? Could you let us know, is this a completely new batch, or will people who are already familiar be able to use what they used to?
Okay, so let's take this one. It's not a new batch, just one for that specific comment. Some hotkeys are redundant. So, and you have my promise, I'm trying not to change a batch of hotkey from one version to another. So 3, sorry, let me get my little application to work back. So 3 is benzene, but it's redundant with A. Okay, so 3A, that's what you get. Just in the same way that O is oxygen, but Q is also oxygen. N is nitrogen, but W is also nitrogen on an atom. Why? Because 1, 2, 3, Q, and W are really within your left finger's reach. So you can do 2 and 1, 3, 1 Q, and you have that's my go-to molecule, paracetamol, and it's all under your left hand fingers. I'm going with the gamer's approach to this.
It's odd that you should mention that. Again, one of the comments I made earlier, it's like watching Ken draw Guitar Hero. The speed and accuracy with which you're able to create these structures is really very impressive. So going through some of these questions, let's pick something that I think is quite easy to generalize out a bit. We had a couple.
I'm glad to see so many people staying on the line, even though we're running over.
We are running over a little bit. Yes, we won't keep you for too much longer, but it would be a shame to miss out on this opportunity. We have had a couple of questions about the 3D tidy function. A very general question: what sort of force field is used for the 3D cleanup?
Sure. Two things on that. The first time that let me take an example that I didn't manage to cover. So let's do V8V, right? And let's take this, put it over here.
Shall we share your screen again? Would that be be beneficial?
Yes, sorry.
That's right. Let me just hand control back over to you.
Sorry, so for the last question, I thought I was still sharing my screen, so
so you should have control again. Now, we had your contact details on screen, but you're quite right. This is pretty useful for people to see.
The previous question, if the person is still there, 3 over an atom, excuse me, 3 over an atom is benzene, but it's redundant with A, right? So as I said, 3 is redundant with A, Q is redundant with O, excuse me, so 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, O, 1, 1, 1, Q is redundant with O, and so that's just to go back here. Now, for what was asked, I go over a bond, I press V, I press 8, I press V, and that's how I can do, for example, a something like this. Right? It doesn't look super appealing, but if I do Control-Shift-D, then that's an actual, if you have a cyclooctadiene complex of iridium, this is what things would look like. So two things happen. The first time you press, you call the cleanup function. There's what we call a self-organizing algorithm that takes place, which generates a crude structure, a crude conformation that will give you a fairly accurate thing if things are constrained. So the more constrained the system, the more, like the first Control-Shift-D or Command-Shift-D on the Mac, the more accurate that will be. If you press it again, then there's actual energy minimization using the universal force field, that takes place. We do not have yet, and I insist on the yet, all the parameters for all elements. So namely the metals, we don't have them yet, but let me just quickly show you one little thing. If you have something like that, and then you have nitrogen, and then you have nitrogen. So you draw a bond here, and you place yourself over the bond, you press V, you get to that. Mathematically, the distance between the two nitrogen is exactly twice the length of this bond, so it just makes a little bit more space. Control, click and drag to make a copy. Control, click and drag, Control Shift H to make a copy. I do that. Control J, I hold Shift, I add to my selection, Control J. Now I take this, obviously this is not a carbon, this is a dummy atom, what's called a dummy atom for the force field, but it will still give you something that looks okay-ish. It's not perfectly straight, but it will be later. So, you know, once you have this, if this is good enough for you, you can go into put iridium. Otherwise, if you need to have something octahedral, the trick for now, until we get the metals properly set, is to introduce a sulfur atom, which will give you something decent. So that's, you know, octahedral-ish. That's pretty well octahedral. And then once you have that, you go with the iridium. Okay. So I hope I answered the question. If you want more details on that, feel free to reach out to me afterwards.
Thank you very much. One thing, again, a couple of people have commented on using this in the cloud and so on. So I guess one advantage that we're facing today is that more and more people are working from more locations with de-densifying offices and so on. So one advantage of a cloud product is that people will be able to use this from not their usual space in the lab, for example. And the other example, the other question, we've had a few things where people have said, can it do this? And Paul, who's been very, very kindly answering questions, has said, not yet, but it is, you know, on your timeline. So given that this is a cloud product, will people basically just receive constant updates whenever you add a new functionality? It'll be in that cloud product for them pretty much straight away.
That is perfect.
And so if there are functions that people want, then they can engage with you, hopefully try and get things developed, find out if they're on the timeline coming up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's one thing that I do want to emphasize. Cloud that does not mean web-based. Cloud does not mean browser-based. And that's really an important thing. We have an application called Signals Notebook, right? And that is, I'm going to type my password. So that's browser-based and it's cloud, right? So when there's a new version, you get the new version. ChemOffice Plus, we decided to go with the client because it gives you more possibilities to interact with the application, more easier way to configure the screen or the shortcuts. So it's the client application you download, but just like if you're using Slack, if you're using Office 365, you enter your credentials, but you're using, for example, the latest version of Word, the latest version of PowerPoint locally on your desktop through a client. So this is what ChemOffice Plus is. It's a client application, but it's cloud, meaning every time you will launch, you will have a check for updates happening automatically, and it will download, restart, and when it restarts, you will have the latest features of ChemOffice Plus. Hope that answers the questions.
And speaking of signals as well, Leo did ask if you can use ChemOffice Plus to aggregate experiments from Signals notebook entries. It sounds like that's exactly what we're designed to do.
Absolutely. So it stores things on the same cloud, and then actually this right now by default I'm retrieving all the reactions, all the documents that are on the cloud, and this very specific reaction you see here is coming from my Signals notebook experiment. So from there I could easily take this and add this to a collection, add properties, and produce a slide. To report on. The formatting, the display are not perfect yet, but obviously those are improvements that are coming. Just to make sure people see this reaction that you're seeing is, exactly this style reactive for synthesis, and that's what you can, for example, fetch. So this is in my Signals notebook experiments, and I find it in ChemOffice Plus because it's data on the same cloud. And obviously, moving forward, we want to have one place in the cloud where you can search on chemistry data from other of our applications.
Excellent. So it's so promising, all of these wonderful things coming up as well. Speaking of collections as well, so I'm a photographer outside of work, and one of the things that revolutionized my photography was being able to create collections, so I could always access things with common themes very quickly and easily, even if it was a photograph I'd taken 5-10 years ago. Ayush has asked if we change, edit, or modify a structure in a collection, does it change the original source file as well, or does it create a new file for the edits?
Thank you. Very good question. So when you are within ChemOffice Plus and you work on files, this is all local. So you're interacting with the local content. This is the actual content from the SD file. This is, an old CDX document that has a bunch of drawings. Every time that you create a collection, you create a copy. So for example, I take, let me just filter on just the structures. Let me just take that structure, that structure, that structure, that structure, that one. When I add them to a collection, I create a copy of those five extracted structures, and it goes on the cloud. So it's a copy now. 5 items added to the collection. We go there. We see collection. So I just added those 5, and now what you're seeing is on the cloud, and it's a copy of those 5 individual structures. There are things that are coming when it comes to making things. So make consistent is something that you can do. It will, for example, those were in another style settings of ChemDraw. So I can select all of them, make consistent, and they will be all in ACS 1996 format for now. And we will little by little introduce more functionality to let you apply different style settings easily to collections, so that you can produce reports that look like what you want.
Excellent. That's a really useful function. I think we have run over by almost 15 minutes now, but there are still some very good questions coming in. One that came in a bit earlier when we were talking about the color highlights. Can you predefine the coloration and get it consistent over many molecules with 1 or 2 clicks? Is that something that the highlights will enable you to do?
So I'm guessing the idea behind that is sort of like a find and replace feature that's in Word and Excel. If I understand things correctly, maybe not.
I think what Friedrich may have been getting at is just when we have repeated units or repeated functions, is it something that we can say, well, highlight all of the methyl groups or something like that?
So not yet. That's a very interesting function that I have in mind as an improvement. But no, as of now, it will be really just select what you want and highlight it in a certain color. This is going to be, for starters, a manual process.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely effective. Given what you'd shown with the old-fashioned way of doing it, of just sort of changing the color of the text itself, having that highlight really does make things pop, and will indeed make things a lot easier to communicate. Let's have one last quick question. Can you use from a chemical structure, can you predict or estimate what NMR data might be?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's been a feature around for a while. So select a molecule, and in ChemDraw Professional, you have proton NMR and carbon 13 NMR. So you simply press that button, and you'll have an estimation. And if you press carbon, you will get that. So you have proton and carbon NMR estimations for any molecule that you have selected.
Perfect. Saskala, hopefully that answers your question as well. Right, I think we really have probably pushed this as far as we possibly can.
Yeah, 15 minutes over. But I'm glad to see the enthusiasm.
Yeah, well, thank you to everybody who has stuck around for a bit of extra time, for all of your fantastic questions and for engaging with those polls as well. And a huge thank you to you, Pierre, for giving us all of your time today. As I said, absolute wizardry, and it's amazing to see how quickly, efficiently, and let's be honest, beautifully you can present these structures with just a few clicks or just knowing those keyboard shortcuts. So thank you very much once again for joining us today. And of course, thank you to Paul in the background as well, who's been answering all of your questions as they came in. And that is all we have for this Chemistry World webinar. I'm Ben Valsner, I'm Chemistry World's digital editor. A huge thank you to ChemDraw for putting us in touch with Pierre and for suggesting this. And really looking forward to seeing what happens on November the 10th when people get this new software and really start making the most of it to communicate their own research, save some time, do some really good chemistry with the time that they now have freed up. They're not wasting quite as much time with admin doing their reports and their ChemDraw. So thank you once again to everybody for joining us, and we'll see you in the next Chemistry World webinar. Thank you.